are some other techniques you can use for multiplying. Of course, when you multiply by 0, we learn that it's like a black hole and it sucks everything in until nothing is left. So any number multiplied by 0 is always 0, no matter what number it is. That's the 0 property. We know when you multiply by 1, 1 is like a stick of gum, and all the other numbers stick to it and don't change. So any number multiplied by 1 is the other number, or the other factor. And that's called the identity property, because the factor that's being multiplied to 1 keeps its identity. It stays the same. For 2's, we learned lots of different ways you can do 2's. You can always do doubles. So 2 times 4 is like 4 plus 4. 2 times 8 is like 8 plus 8. So you can always double the factor that's not the 2. You can also just skip a count by 2's, which is very easy as well. For 4's, you can double double. Think of the In-N-Out burger, double double, which means you can do the other factor that's not the 4, multiply it by 2, and then double that answer, because 2 plus 2 is 4. So 4 times 8, if you don't know it off the top of your head, you can always do, oh, I know 2 times 8. I can just double the 8, it's 16, and then I'll double it again. Makes 32. Of course, you can always skip count by 4's as well. 5's and 10's are one of the easiest ones. They always, for 5's, end in a 0 or a 5. So if you ever get a product, which is an answer to a multiplication problem, that does not end in a 5 or a 0, when multiplying by 5, you know it's wrong. And of course, counting by 5's is fairly easy. 10, the answer or product, always ends in 0. So you can just count by 10's. You can also double your 5's, so 10 times 6, you can do 5 times 6 and then double that answer. Or another thing that's not written here is you just take the 0 and add it to the end of the other product, the other factor. So in 10 times 6, 6 is the other factor. I can just take the 0, put it at the end of the 6, and you have 60. 3's, you can learn how to just skip count by the multiples of 3. You can also use doubles plus one more group. So that means if you do 3 times 7, you can double the 7, which would be the same as 7 times 2, and then add one more 7. For 6's, you can always double your 3's, count by 6's, or you can use some other strategies you'll learn later for 7's. But for 6's, you can either just do times 3 and then double it, or count by 6's. You could also just multiply by 5 and add one more group. So for 6 times 7, you can do 5 times 7, because that's easier, and then add 7 more. 7 is one of the best ones to practice the distributive property. Remember, the distributive property means you take the factor 7, if it's a 7, you break it into two numbers that add together to make 7. These are called add-ins. We know that 5 plus 2 equals 7, and that 5 and 2 are easier numbers to multiply. You could also use 3 and 4 or 6 and 1, but 5 and 2 are easier. So then what I would do is take my other factor 4, I would multiply it by 5, so 5 times 4 is 20, and then I would take that 4 and multiply it by 2, 2 times 4 is 8, and then I can add those two products together to get 28. Of course, you can skip count by 7's, or use the strategy of the other multiple. If you have 7 times 2, instead of using the distributive property, why don't you just double the 7? Because we know you can do that with 2's. 8 is another good one to use the distributive property. You can break the 8 into 2 add-ins, 4 plus 4, and then take the other factor and multiply it by 4. So 6 times 4 is 24, and then 6 times 4 again is 24. And then you can add those two together to get the product, which is 48. You can also count by multiples of 8, or even use the strategy of the other factor. If we have 8 times 6, we know for one strategy for 6 is do 8 times 5 and then add 8 more. That might be easier than one of the other strategies, so you can decide. 9s are actually pretty easy. We learned this finger trick by watching a video that is posted in our Google Classroom Math, so you can always go back and watch that video. I also taught you how you can start at the top and write 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 going down, move over, and then do it back up. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that will give you 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63, 72, 81, 90. So if I were to do 9 times 4, I could just count down 1, 2, 3, 4, and the answer is 36. You also learned that the digits of the product when you multiply by 9 always add up to 9. 0 plus 9 equals 9, 1 plus 8 equals 9, 2 plus 7 equals 9, all the way down. Even if you have one that's a 3-digit number, like 9 times 12 is 108, the 1 plus the 0 plus the 8 equal 9. So these are tons of different strategies and rules and techniques that you can use if you're ever stuck on a multiplication fact that you have not memorized yet.